had an awesome opportunity to talk with a friend, blast from the past, guy that I went to college with, and it's been a little while, a few years since we were able to catch up and have a conversation. So it was really awesome to be able to talk with him on my way home from work today. That being said, besides catching up, he shared with me and was very vulnerable with me about some challenges that he's going through right now and has been for a couple of years now. And let's just say, for example's sake, that this challenge is he eats bad food. You know, he's eating chocolate cake, he's eating desserts, and he's just getting out of shape, and it's just really clearly not good for his health, his well-being, his mental wellness, and it affects his family, right? Because when he's not in shape, when he's not feeling as high energy as he needs to be, he can't take care and help his family in the way that he needs to. So his challenge that he shared with me is that, you know, he certainly gets in different scenarios, environments, or situations and has certain feelings emotionally and mentally that trigger the result of him saying, gosh, that was a great meal. I need to now go have some chocolate cake and some desserts. And that's not good for him. Obviously, he recognizes that. He wants to take action and make the change and progress towards a different version of himself, a version of himself that won't fall into that trap, that will not be triggered to partake in that activity of eating unhealthfully. And he was sharing with me about his feelings, his stories, the times that he is triggered. And I was listening, I was asking questions, and I was digging. I was really trying to figure out, where's his mind, where's his state when that trigger happens, and what is his environment, and what is he doing to try and break out of that and make progress in the positive direction. And I realized from talking with him that his strategy was to move towards a better version of himself. His strategy was to think about when he was about to be tempted and triggered into eating that cake and all that dessert. He would try to get himself to envision that person that he wants to be. He would try to get himself to envision that valuable life, that valuable lifestyle, that feel-good lifestyle that he would have if he did not participate in that bad habit of eating the candy and the cake at inopportune times during the day. And as the more I listened to him, I realized that he had one strategy to go to. And I said, let's say Sam, for example purposes, because I didn't ask him if it was okay to share this. So I said, Sam, what it sounds like to me, and I'm certainly not an expert, Sam, by any means, I'm not an expert, but I am fascinated with the mind-body connection. I'm fascinated with how we can make those changes and rewire ourselves to take more effective habits and actions. And I said, what it sounds like to me is you're doing one version when we really have two versions as a human. Right? So from a human behavioral standpoint, we either move towards pleasure or we move away from pain. And in this case, clearly from the example I've shared with you so far, it sounds like Sam's trying to move towards pleasure. He's trying to envision himself becoming a different person. He's trying to envision himself as that changed person and move towards that to say, gosh, I know I feel triggered right now to take this action and partake in this habit that I really know is not healthy for me. And in order to break myself away from that, I'm going to move towards that person that I really want to be. I said, that's great. That's good. Keep that up. I said, but could it help you to start attaching and associating unbearable pain to what you're doing? To when you get that trigger, that sense that, yes, I've got to eat that cake, I don't care what's going to happen, and you start to recognize that you're in that scenario, could it help to connect unbearable pain to that scenario? Maybe it's unbearable physical pain that you create in your own mind as you associate with that habit. And he said, you know what, I haven't really thought about that before. He said, I really have still found some comfort in that habit, in that pleasure of eating the cake and the candy. It just makes me feel a certain way. And it's been a habit for several years, and to get away from it's tough. And as much as he put himself in the state where he wants to do the next thing, where he wants to become the person that doesn't partake in that habit, he still had this sense of comfort and contentment from partaking in that habit. And I said, continue to move towards that person that you want to be, but if you really want to make the change, you must also create so much pain and attach so much intense, immediate pain to that activity when you're triggered to do it, that you'll stay away from it, that you'll avoid it. And you have to keep doing that over and over and over again to the point where you totally shatter that pattern of thinking, that pattern of feeling and emotion that it connects to that activity. And the more he's able to shatter that on a regular basis and move away from that pain, and then simultaneously move towards the pleasure of envisioning and feeling that person that he ultimately wants to become, that is where he'll start to make changes. That is where he'll start to recognize that he's making drastic improvements, that he's making significant progress in his challenge of ending a habit and creating a new, better, more empowering way of life. And I just got so passionate about it because clearly he's a friend of mine. He's someone I've known for several years now. And for him to open up his heart to me was pretty amazing. I felt very connected to him, and I felt like there were some things I could share with him. And I would say this to you: if you're someone that has a habit, something that you know is destroying you right now, or it feels like is really beating you down, holding you back, keeping you stuck where you are from being able to move forward towards that thing or that way of life, that person that you really want to become, start to recognize that you have those two opportunities, those two ways of thinking about your behavior. One, you can move towards pleasure. Two, you can move away from pain. So it's possible. You just have to think about it, start to understand it, and move in that direction. Start to recognize that you can break and shatter your pattern, that you can start to associate immense, unbearable pain with the thing that you're currently doing, that bad habit, and then start associating in your mind, in your heart, in your emotional state with that person that you really want to become, with that activity, with those habits that you really know will empower you and propel you forward. So move away from pain, move towards pleasure, and start to consciously, intentionally associate yourself in those ways around these habits that you don't want. And simultaneously, around the habits that you do want, move towards those. I really think that you'll start to find differences in your life, or at least to become aware of those scenarios, at least to become aware that that's a route you can go, to start to become aware of those changes that you can make to make progress. I think will be hugely important and could really propel you in the direction you want to go. So I can share more on this later, but I want to at least get you thinking in that line of thought in terms of understanding the two different mindsets and ways you can think about changing those habits that you no longer want and moving towards the habits that you know you really need in your life. That's all I got. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope it's helpful. Have fun. Be awesome.